150% of their capacity, and a third of the inmates are here only for smoking a joint.
I know it's against the law, but that's not how it is in other countries. They don't do the urine test. I don't feel like a criminal. It's between me and my body. It's not hurting anyone.
Like others, Bilal was convicted under Law 52 against drug use, a repressive tool of the old regime, which carries an automatic one-year prison sentence for using or possessing drugs like marijuana. More than half of the convicts are repeat offenders. Over 15 years, Law 52 trials have increased from a few hundred to nearly 6,000.
We have 1,000 inmates who are here for drug use, and that's one of the major reasons for overcrowding in here. The drug convicts are almost all young. Many of them are students and high schoolers.
On hold for more than a year, a reform bill now plans to offer first-time offenders medical treatment to avoid prison. But for many civil society groups, progress needs to be quicker.
It seems this bill still sees the simple drug user as a criminal. In some respects, the reform would bring improvements, but it's not a real change from what used to be in place.
The activists demand the complete repeal of prison sentences for first-time offenders and the end of arbitrary urine testing. Parliament is expected to vote on a final draft before the end of February.
To Agadez in northern Niger now, where in record time a crackdown on people smuggling saw the numbers of migrants transitioning through the country to Libya drop from 70,000 last May to 11,500 by the end of November. The absence of travellers, though, has had its own drawbacks for the town.
Until recently, thousands of migrants lived in Agadez. It was one of the main towns on the route to Libya and then Europe. But since last summer, their number has plummeted. As a result, the town's economy has been hard hit. This Ghanaian migrant remembered how Agadez used to be 6 months ago.
This ghetto was one of the biggest in Agadez. Every day, 50 to 100 people came here. And at one point, more than 500 people lived here.
The reason they are no longer in Agadez is because the European Union gave 600 million euros to Niger's government. The money funded a program that aims to curb migrant trafficking. The EU says the number of people who travelled across Niger fell from 70,000 in May to 11,500 in November.
Wow.
The International Organization for Migration has monitoring posts in 2 regions of Niger.
Before we used to see large numbers going through every week. Now the number is close to 0. Just a dozen. But I would like to emphasize that it does not mean there are no migrants in Niger, because we are on the ground only in those 2 areas.
The EU acknowledged that the reduced traffic in Niger has not yet led to an overall reduction in arrivals in Europe. Some experts say that putting more troops in Agadez has only
That's the Sahara Desert.
Different, more dangerous
in Niger and Morocco and Tunisia.
In Zambia, the government's introducing a controversial labour law that allows women 1 day off work a month for their period. Since 2015, female employees have been able to take what's been called a Mother's Day. They don't even need a sick note.
Shubelo Chembe takes a day off work to cope with her period pains. She doesn't need to provide a sick note or even to explain the reason to her employer. That's because in Zambia, a labour law allows women to stay at home once a month during their period.
It helps me manage my physiological needs. Yeah, as a woman, it goes without saying, every month I'll need a special day to be away from the office and manage myself properly.
The day is politely known as Mother's Day, regardless of whether the woman has children or not. It was passed into law in 2015, giving Zambian women unique rights in Africa. Further afield, only Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, South Korea, and a few Chinese provinces have similar laws in place. But not all Zambians agree with it. Opponents say many women abuse it and use it for other personal reasons.
I've never taken Mother's Day in my life. My sense is that giving half the workforce 12 days extra per year is unproductive.
Both civil servants and employees of the private sector are allowed to take Mother's Day. Although some businesses complain that it affects their productivity, the government defends it.
Women don't go on Mother's Day at the same time. They go at different times. So it would have been different if they all went on one day. Then you can say that the business will close or something like that. But they alternate. So there's no documentary evidence that it has lowered productivity.
Zambia's economy is already affected by low productivity, with growth rates slowing to 2.9% in 2016, according to the World Bank. But many women are proud of this progressive law, in a country where anything related to sexuality is generally considered taboo.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. That's it for Across Africa.